The moment everything shattered began with a sound I will never forget, the sharp scrape of a chair against marble flooring, loud enough to silence an entire room, followed by a voice that cracked through the air like lightning. In that instant, I realized that some truths don't arrive gently. They explode. And when they do, they leave nothing untouched. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us how fragile yet powerful the human heart can be, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. I had always believed I was good at reading people. Years of working as a consultant had trained me to notice small shifts in tone, subtle changes in posture, the unspoken tension behind polite smiles. That belief was my quiet pride, the invisible armor I carried into every client meeting. It was the reason I never expected to be blindsided by her. She was just another client at first, or so I told myself. Professional, polished, controlled. She walked into my office with the confidence of someone who had survived storms and learned how to look calm in the aftermath. We worked closely, sometimes for hours at a stretch, building strategies, solving problems, entangling the complicated messes of her business and, slowly, her life. From the outside, everything between us looked simple. Two professionals working toward the same goals. Inside, though, there was a growing gravity I tried hard to ignore. It showed up in the way meetings ran longer than scheduled, in how silence between us never felt awkward, in how her eyes softened when she thought I wasn't paying attention. I told myself it was nothing. Clients admire competence. People confuse trust with connection all the time. I had rules, boundaries built carefully over years, and I believed I was strong enough to keep them intact. She often spoke about being alone without ever using the word lonely. She mentioned past disappointments like they were old injuries that no longer hurt, even though I could sense they still ached under the surface. I listened, because listening was part of my job, but also because something in me wanted to understand her beyond the spreadsheets and presentations. I convinced myself that care could remain clean and professional if I kept it quiet. I was wrong. The event that changed everything was supposed to be ordinary. A networking gathering in a hotel ballroom, all soft lights and polite laughter, where deals were hinted at more than spoken. I was there as her consultant, standing slightly behind her as she spoke to investors and partners. She moved through the room effortlessly, and I felt a strange mix of pride and distance watching her command attention. At some point, someone I vaguely knew placed a hand on my arm, leaning in too close as they spoke. It was nothing dramatic, just a casual touch, the kind people use without thinking. I didn't react. I didn't even notice her reaction at first. Then the room changed. I felt it before I understood it. The energy shifted, tightening like a wire pulled too far. She turned sharply, her composure cracking for the first time since I had known her. Her voice cut through the hum of conversation, raw and unfiltered, demanding that hands be removed from me. The words themselves were less shocking than the force behind them. It was not the voice of a colleague protecting an asset. It was the voice of someone defending something deeply personal. The silence that followed was heavy, uncomfortable. Eyes turned toward us, curiosity flickering like small flames. My heart pounded, not from embarrassment, but from the sudden clarity of what had just been revealed. She had always insisted we were just friends, just professional allies, nothing more. Yet in that moment, her restraint vanished, replaced by instinct and fear and something that looked dangerously like love. She realized it too, I think. I saw it in her face as awareness dawned, followed quickly by panic. After that night, nothing fit the way it used to. Meetings felt charged, every glance weighted with meaning. We spoke less about business and more about everything we had avoided naming. Or rather, we circled around it, pretending the truth wasn't sitting between us like an open wound. She pulled back, reasserting boundaries with a stiffness that hurt more than honesty would have. She reminded me, indirectly and often, that we were just friends, just client and consultant. I nodded, agreed, and told myself I could live with that lie if it kept her close. But lies have a way of poisoning the air. I started questioning my own worth, wondering if I had imagined the connection, if I had misread everything. Sleep became restless. Work lost its sharpness. I watched her retreat behind walls she rebuilt brick by brick, and I felt powerless to stop it. The challenge wasn't just loving her quietly, it was respecting her fear. She had been hurt before, badly, by people who blurred lines and then disappeared when things became real. I represented safety and risk at the same time, and that contradiction terrified her. The breaking point came not in anger, but in exhaustion. One evening, long after a meeting that had stretched into the night, I realized how tired I was of pretending. Tired of shrinking myself to fit into a role that denied what was obvious to everyone else. I began to change, not dramatically, but deliberately. I focused on my own life again. I took on fewer projects with her, not out of spite, but to breathe. I stopped being constantly available. And in that space, something unexpected happened. She noticed. Distance did what closeness could not. She reached out, cautiously at first, asking why things felt different. I didn't accuse or confess. I simply showed up as myself, honest but restrained, kind without self-erasure. Slowly, she began to unravel her own defenses. She spoke about fear without dressing it up as logic. She admitted that seeing someone touch me that night had ignited something she couldn't control, something she had been denying even to herself. It wasn't jealousy alone. It was the terror of losing a connection she depended on more than she was ready to admit. What changed us wasn't a dramatic declaration or a sudden leap into romance. It was the quiet rebuilding of trust on equal ground. We redefined boundaries together instead of pretending they didn't need redefining. We acknowledged that connection doesn't have to be reckless to be real. The story shifted from confusion to clarity, from denial to courage. And in that shift, both of us grew. I learned that loving someone doesn't mean waiting forever in silence. She learned that protecting her heart didn't require pretending it didn't beat. As you listen to this story, if it resonates with you in any way, if you've ever loved someone in the space between friendship and fear, please take a moment to engage with this video. Like it, share it, and let us know you're here. Your interaction helps these stories reach the people who need them most. Near the end of our journey, there was a moment of stillness, not dramatic or loud, where everything simply made sense. We weren't defined by that outburst in the ballroom anymore. It had become a turning point rather than a scar. The lesson lingered long after, that sometimes the truth reveals itself not through careful planning, but through raw, unguarded emotion. And when it does, we can either run from it or learn to grow into it. Before this story ends, I want to ask you something special. Please comment below with the word heart. If you believe that honesty, even when it's messy, is better than silence. In the end, this wasn't just a story about love misunderstood or boundaries crossed. It was about two people learning that connection demands bravery, and that protecting yourself too much can cost you the very thing you're trying to save. If this story touched your heart, if it made you feel seen or understood, don't scroll away quietly. Let your presence be known. Your voice matters here, just as much as this story does.